You know what time it is! You know what time it is! E-S-T-L-E-S-T-L! And you know what underdogs is? It's a hungry dog!
And the second stick away, and the Eagles are alive! Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you! Let the celebration begin!
Welcome, everyone, to episode 57 of Wingin It. I am Ali, and please excuse my voice. I've been a little under the weather the last few days, but just like Jalen Hurts, I'm not going to let that stop me. Just excuse me if I throw a couple of interceptions throughout this episode. That's not a dig on Hurts, but, we'll get into it. But before we get into any of these, the storylines of what happened last night, do not forget to drop us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, SoundCloud, Instagram. We're on Instagram at wingin.it.pod. And please do not forget to hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube, and hit that notification bell so that you are not missing any content because we are coming at you rapid fire. Boys, we had a Monday Night Football game last night. We had a lot of traction that we saw as far as the interview that we had with Birdman last week. There is a lot to get into. First, I'll hand it off to Andrew. Andrew, how are you feeling after last night's game?
After last night's game, I'm feeling incredible. After this weekend as a whole, I'm very depressed with how things are currently sitting in the Swingin' It standings. Congratulations, Ali, first and foremost, for that ridiculous Cardinals pick. I'm actually going to send you a Venmo right now. I'm going to send you $12.50. So you're going to get a, it was 12.5 point, spread. So I'll go with that. Aside from that, though, man, we're 3-0. We're one of three teams in the NFL who now are 3-0. We joined the Dolphins, who, holy moly, a 70 spot. Are you kidding me? And then what seems like it's going to be our true rival this year, the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm excited to get into this game. Aleks, how you feeling, man?
Dude, there is nothing better than the Dallas Cowboys losing to arguably the worst team in the NFL. We all knew it. We all knew it was going to happen. But, man, there's just so much jokes about, like, Joshua Dobbs and Gannon with fire in your gut and everything. I just love it. I just absolutely love it. I mean, Kyler Murray's holding out. Like, they just have a guy in there. They're obviously in a clear rebuild. The whole entire, franchise is really, starting over essentially. And the Super Bowl hopefuls. And this is what they do every single year. They dwarf really, really bad teams, and then they get their butts kicked and they're exposed for what they are. And it wasn't even just like it was errors. Like, the Cardinals actually outplayed them. They ran the ball on them. Dobbs had some really deep throws. Like, I mean, Dak Prescott getting picked in the end zone in a big moment again. I mean, it's just typical Dallas Cowboys. You absolutely love to see it. You guys also mentioned the Birdman interview last week, and just thank you for all of the support. We've gotten it about in front of like 8,000 people is when I just checked the view count before this. Hundreds of shares, hundreds of likes. We have a lot of direct messages from people sharing this with media outlets and independent journalists. So please, if you're listening to this now, help us get the word out. If you have no idea what we're talking about, make sure you're following us on winging.it.pod on Instagram. Ali, Andrew, and I put together a really awesome video. I was really Ali. We really appreciate that, man. And it just, we just really want to get his story out. And we have a lot of people supporting Joey and his appeal. And we're really hoping that we can see something good come from this. So please help us keep up the momentum.
And also, he now owes you his costume, Ali. So I guess you'll be expecting the Birdman costume in the mail since, again, your Swingin' It pick was just that absurd and ridiculous. And congrats, man.
I can't wait to get arrested when I go to the Eagles-Cowboys game. But no, I mean, it's a truly impactful story, and it's easy to get that many eyeballs when an individual is that genuine and that heartfelt as a human being. And what I love about these conversations that we have is that they transcend football oftentimes, right? And it's no longer about this silly little game that we watch on Sundays and Mondays, but it's about people.
Yeah.
and how we're trying to navigate this life. So we're praying for Joey. We're pulling for him. And as Alex said, if you haven't taken a chance to watch the interview, it's on full interviews out on YouTube. The highlights of it are on our Instagram page. So check it out.
Hashtag free Birdman.
Hashtag free Birdman. All right. But in typical Winging It fashion, Andrew, we had a football game. It's time for us to break it down. Let's get into 2 up, 2 down.
Aleks and Andrews, 2 up, 2 down.
So, do you want to start this off or shall I, Alex?
You do it. I want to hear what you got.
All right. I made sure to not mention a certain something or someone because something tells me you might want to talk about him yourself. So I'm going to start off giving major props, or should I say major preps, to St. Joe's Prep. Why? Who graduated from St. Joe's Prep, boys and girls? DeAndre Swift and Alameda Zacchaeus. They both brought it last night. Swift has now brought it for 2 weeks in a row. I'll get more into him in a second, but Zacchaeus I was really impressed with. I think arguably Hurts's maybe 2 best throws of the night both went to him. That touchdown pass, I don't know if it was lucky. I think some people thought that pass was going to get picked off, but it landed right in the breadbasket. And Zacchaeus,
second it left his fingertips, I was like, oh, that's a pick.
And that was the second throw on that drive by Jalen where he escaped a little bit of pressure, got rid of the ball, knew he was going to take a huge hit, but still put the ball right on the money. So that was really encouraging to see. So Zacchaeus came up huge. We were talking about it in the preseason that we thought he might overtake Quez as our wide receiver 3. And I know Quez is injured right now, but Zacchaeus seems to be taking advantage of that opportunity. So I'll add on to that. DeAndre Swift, man. I think running backs have an opportunity to show flash more than a lot of other positions. So when I say that he's the most fun player to watch, that I mean, again, I'll make the comparison to Shady, but my goodness, this guy moves at a different speed than everyone else. The acceleration that he picks up even before he takes the handoff, I don't know how you stop it. And he's not a big guy, he's a small, just like this sleek, shifty guy, but when he hits a hole, it's like he's shot out of a cannon. So run offense again was incredible. I'm going to add on to that right now. These numbers for the first 3 weeks of the season, our rush offense compared to the teams we've played is absurd. Let me share this with you real quick. Week 1, we had the advantage 97-76. Not a huge deal. Week 2, last week at the Vikings, 259-28. And now this week, 201-41. On the year, that's 557 to 145, 185 yards per game rushing to 48. So I'm not only giving props to our rush offense here, but I want to add another one up. I got to give it up to the Bash Brothers, baby. The Bash Brothers, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis, and what they are able to accomplish in the middle of this defense. Nobody can run on us right now. And, arguably the reason that we were able to have the safety, Nicholas Morrow came in as a linebacker who made the play, but all the attention was being put on Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis in the front. So I am over the moon with what we're seeing out of our run game, our rush defense. And Alex.
Yeah.
Now to have at it.
Yeah, man. So my 2 ups, the first one is going to be 100% mirroring what your second one is. I mean, our run defense held Rashad White to 2.7 yards per attempt, and they got us the safety. You don't see safeties too much in the NFL, so what a treat to see that. You maybe see that maybe a handful in the entirety of the entire NFL. So seeing a safety there was incredible off of I would actually say a pretty sick interception that, unfortunately it was not our interception, but there was just so much momentum, so much excitement in the very next play. Just the 2 points there.
I want to chime in for 1 sec because I know how much everyone here loves Brandon Graham and how he's just the best trash talker of all time. Yeah. When they had the ball, when the Bucs had the ball on like the half-yard line, there's a quote. He's like, "You don't want to be here. Don't run the ball." Like he warned them. And then the very next play, no chance.
Dude, I absolutely love it. And I also want to call out, just when we're speaking about the defense, I did tell you it was going to be a multi-turnover game. I told you Baker Mayfield was overdue for an interception. Jalen Carter, two forced fumbles. Just an absolute stellar performance from our defense. I know everyone likes the 70 points. I know everyone likes these firework offenses, but defense, and you've heard it time and time again, that's what wins you championships. I would much rather have a stout defense where people have a really hard time scoring than us, than what we think is a struggling offense trying to get down the field but still winning games. The second stat's really interesting because I'm going to flash back to 2004, 2005 when we went on the Super Bowl run with that All-Star team. I remember thinking, when looking at the end of those games and they would show the stats, and I remember vividly, there was not a single stat the Philadelphia Eagles would be leading in besides the score. And there's so many different ways you can do it. You can throw the ball a whole lot, not score touchdowns. You can kick a lot of field goals, right? There's different ways to have the stats there. And I remember thinking, I was like, are we winning football games the right way? And then foreshadowing, we lost the Super Bowl. We played 2.5 times better than the Bucs last night. There wasn't actually a single significant stat. Actually, every single stat of the game went in our favor. We doubled up on time of possession. The score was obviously higher. We were more third down efficient. We doubled the time of possession. We dominated in total yards by almost triple. There's not a single stat that we didn't dominate in by over 2.
We halved their turnovers.
Yeah. So we essentially could have played them twice and not done anything and still would have beat their stats. We played 2.5 times better than that team did. And that's just a really, really good indicator to me of what a good football team should be doing. There's a lot of people still after that win. And it's funny, Baker Mayfield runs onto the field. Troy Aikman says, we interviewed Baker right before this game. He's so excited. This is the best his career's started off in a season. All these new head coaches, he's finally found a home. But then once they showed Jalen Hurts, but they're struggling, man. They're 2-0 as well, but man, this team is struggling. It just shows you the mindset of like where those two football franchises are at. So we're winning, and we're winning by a convincing way, and we're beating teams we're 2.5 times more efficient than the other teams there. Any feedback or anything in regards to the stats before I get into my downs?
First of all, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that both of you pointed out, specifically on the defense, but I want to mention, because I'd be remiss if I didn't mention him, Jalen Carter is quickly making himself a case for Defensive Rookie of the Year. The man is 23 years old. He's only played, 90 snaps, so about 30 snaps per game so far, and is easily, in my mind, one of the most dominant presences in the middle of the defensive line on any football team. He's making himself a pretty, substantial case for winning Defensive Player of the Year. One thing, Aleks, I'm super shocked that you didn't bring up my boy
Britton Covey. I know. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, Britton Covey might actually go down as the best punt returner to ever touch a football field, and I'm just waiting for his inception into Canton just to throw it right back in your face, man. The Britton Covey trash is ridiculous.
I knew that he had it in him. I always said that he's ripe to break one for a touchdown. Mm-hmm. No, I'll give you your props when you deserve it. But the last thing that I want to point out, guys, from a stats perspective, 59%. 59%. That is the breakdown between Eagles fans versus Buccaneers fans at Raymond James Stadium yesterday.
Ali, the YouTube video, post the clip of the post-game interview where they're trying to find a Bucs fan and they can't. So they just interview this guy and they said, what did the Bucs do?
They all left early.
So, make sure you put that into the YouTube.
The Eagles fans were annoying before the game. They're even worse now. Maybe we can find a Bucs fan to talk to. Hey, what did the Bucs do right today? Nothing. What did the Eagles do right? Everything. There you go.
It's incredible. I mean, I think back to Birdman's comment last week when he was like, our fans travel. And I didn't necessarily sort of realize what that meant until I saw that statistic yesterday. I remember the aerial views of the stadium showing it literally looked like Christmas in the stands because of the amount of red and green that was there. And then come to find out it was 59% Eagles fans. That is ridiculous and amazing at the same time.
That's why I expressed such frustration last week that Tampa has all of these championships in the last couple of years in various sports. You know, the Rays have been good. The Tampa Bay Lightning have been good. The Bucks won a Super Bowl with Tom Brady. And this is their fan base. So that is like, how do the sports gods allow that? Another point I wanted to make, Ali, you were mentioning how Jalen Carter is, I mean, he is right now the flat out front runner for defensive rookie of the year. Right now he's at plus 100 odds. It seems like, hey, that sounds good. And right now the second player behind him is Will Anderson, who's on the Texans, and he's at plus 500. So right now Jalen Carter is the substantial front runner to win that award. And man, Covey, 18.8 average on the year so far. So well over your 10-yard average from last year. He's currently tied for second in the NFL.
Looking at you, Ali.
Man, I'm telling, like, he looked really, really good. And that's an element that we haven't seen since Darren Sproles. So,
yeah. All right.
I mean,
well,
it's an element we haven't seen in Britton Covey either, right? Like, he wasn't showing these flashes and bursts of speed last year. But
what?
Again,
Yes, he was.
He did.
I can't.
He finished.
With you, Ali. I really can't. I can't. Stop trying to justify. Just say that you were wrong. I'm amazing. I am CEO of the Britton Covey fan club. I pulled out the stats. I showed it.
He averaged more yards per return than Darren Sproles did in his rookie year. I mean, you got to give the guy some props.
I will give.
But what,
props.
Ali? But what? But what?
but he can't score a touchdown.
He will, and I can't wait.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. All right, let's get into the criticism, the favorite thing that this fan base likes to do. We can't just be content that we're 3-0 and move on to next week. We always have to be critical. The first one, I think, is a pretty obvious one. And I made a joke in our group chat last night, but I basically said Jalen Hurts went from an absolute run threat to Peyton Manning's running ability in about 6 months. And it's just a very, very, very different game. I have some stats here with me. But, you know, in 2023, Hurts is just not the same, and it's not even close. Just to kind of give you some perspective, in 2022, through the first 3 games, Hurts ran for 167 yards on the ground. This year, right now, it's at 100. Give or take a few plays. I'd love to see like what that number looks like in like week 8 or 9 when we have a larger sample size. But there's obviously a big decrease in production. He's also like just sliding a lot easier. I feel like he's not running as fast as he would. I remember last year, man, he's going down to the goal line, lunging for touchdowns against the Vikings, and I just don't feel like we're having the same Jalen Hurts. And it was really bizarre to me to see him in this shotgun formation all day, and like this like gunslinger like role that he had. And I don't doubt that Jalen Hurts can play there and be, you know, somewhat successful, but that's not his strength. You know, you look at a team like the Dolphins, and they use Tyreek Hill really good. They create a lot of misdirection, a lot of chaos. The teams don't know how to act. And last year, that's how teams felt about us. You had to respect it. We didn't have an RPO. We had an RPOR, run, pass, option, run. They had to have a spy down. They had to take someone out of coverage to cover Jalen because they didn't know what they were doing. And there was a lot of open holes, a lot of open pockets that Jalen easily could have escaped out of and ran, and he's being forced to throw the ball. I don't know if it's Brian Johnson. I don't know if it's Jalen trying to protect him because he wants to be the franchise quarterback. But I think Jalen is a totally different quarterback this year. Besides the tush push, I can only remember maybe one true RPO that we saw last night with that A.J. Brown drop touchdown that was a little bit high. Maybe another one in the game. But guys, like, should we be worried? Is the characteristics that make Jalen Hurts changing, and how do we feel about it?
Well, I think the pass that was high to AJ was high because it had to go over. Like, there was a defender right there.
It was a good pass. It was a great pass. Yeah,
and that was more on it. You're a wide receiver. You got to catch that ball. And he also dropped another touchdown. I'm not worried. I think that teams are now obviously planning much more for Jalen, the run threat. And so, yeah, they're trying to make him more one-dimensional. They're making him throw the ball, which is smart. Luckily for us, we have plenty of success running the ball with our running backs. I think that to me, he's still converting on third downs. He like there's times where I see him turn the corner and he's lowering the shoulder, and I'm like, he's going to pick it up. Like, so I think there's still the situational running for me is still working out just fine. I know that we're looking at yards per carry, and it's a huge drop off from last year. Like you see 10 for 28, and you're like, oh, that's. But then again, how many of those were just 1 yard plays where they were literally just trying to gain a yard or a half a yard? So sometimes that messes up the averages. I'm not worried. I think that it's just a matter of this offense just gelling more. Ali, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I'm worried because Jalen has continued to evolve what his definition of a good quarterback or a proper quarterback should be since he came into the league. Frankly, since he came into college, he was not as accurate as he was in college, and his accuracy had gotten significantly better. As he got into the NFL, his accuracy had gotten significantly better. He was looking to run far more. His rollouts out of the pocket were often to his right side, never to his left. He modified that last year, and that significantly increased the options in his game. I don't think I'm necessarily worried about Jalen as much as I'm worried about the relationship and the offensive play calling that we've got with Brian Johnson. And even still, after yesterday, I'm seeing improvements in that as well, right? So in this case, we've got a situation where two people are kind of feeling themselves out. Jalen has clearly modified his game so that he can opt for longevity instead of making the big plays, which I don't disagree with, right? Like, we need the guy, not just for this season, but for many seasons to come. And in this case, what I think I'm seeing is more about the relationship between our offensive coordinator and our quarterback, more than what the evolution of our quarterback's game is evolving to.
Yeah, I'm not saying I disagree, but actually I do disagree. I think Jalen Hurts just looks like a totally different quarterback this year. I think the thing that makes him really unique is the fact that he's not your traditional pocket passer. And you're telling me that teams are scripting him. And if they're scripting, if they're anticipating it, they're doing a god awful job, because there's a lot of green field in front of him on a lot of plays. So I actually don't see it that way, but we'll just have to see what happens upcoming. It does take me to my second down, and we can kind of continue this point. I am a little bit worried about the play calling, specifically red zone efficiency. I think the fourth down on the first drive, we had some momentum. I could kind of get behind it, but the fact that we're throwing the ball, when you have DeAndre Swift, who averaged 8.1 yards per carry, you're putting Kenneth Gainwell in on fourth and short. I mean, if you're at the 20-yard line and your guy's getting 8.1 yards a carry, in 4 runs, you will get to the goal line if we're looking at the averages here. Of course, it's not going to work like that all the time, and the personnel is going to look a little different, but, from the perspective of, like, that's how an average works. What are we doing throwing the ball? What are we doing? Hey, we need to pick up this fourth down and put Kenneth Gainwell in. I'm just worried that, like, boneheaded play calling like that is really going to manifest itself in, like, really big moments where we can't make mistakes like that. I feel I can't remember too many times last year where we're sitting here yelling at the play calling once Shane took the sticks and started doing it. We were all making a joke because we saw Howie Roseman on his phone. He's like, screw it, I got it, guys. Brian, you don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna start texting the plays to Jalen and have it read into his ear. I don't know. So we can kind of continue that point with Jalen and play calling and whatnot, but those are my 2 downs.
I think that we've shown a strong ability to make the proper adjustments as the game has gone on. So it does feel like some of the uglier play calling comes in either the first or the second quarter, or maybe it's just been like that the last 2 weeks, because with the Vikings, we came out very pass heavy. And then once we started running the ball, we didn't look back. And it kind of Yeah, the first half was ugly yesterday because we left a lot of points on the board, which was also my first down because the red zone efficiency was rough. We're used to seeing this Eagles team, especially on the first drive of the game, march down the field, eat a lot of clock, and then and then be able to finish by putting 6 up on the board. We didn't convert on fourth down. It was questionable to bring in Gainwell, like you said. I'll just add my extra down in here is like, when I look at the box score, I don't want to see DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell that close in touches. So Swift had 16 carries and Gainwell had 14. A little bit of that is because I think Gainwell was brought in towards the end of the game, and that I totally agree with. You want to preserve Swift, keep that man healthy. So I get, that's a little bit of it, but in that fourth down situation, running the ball with Gainwell felt a little questionable. So yeah, I'm basically just piggybacking off of both of yours, but I think some of those drives should have ended in touchdowns, and that would have really expanded our lead well more than 10 at halftime. And I'm scarred by a 10-point halftime lead. So but all these things will get cleaned up, and just to kind of the last thing I'll say about Jalen, to your point, Alex, is while there is worry, and I've been worried watching him since the beginning of the season, I saw things last night in the pass game with him that put me a little bit more at ease. He was looking down the field. He was not just making one read and then taking off. And he showed the ability to make NFL throws while under pressure. So there were enough time.
That pass to Zacchaeus on the sideline was really well, because that was like his last progression, figuring out what to do. I thought he was just going to toss it out of bounds like we've seen him do. He gets a little bit of pressure, rolls to the right, and he said, no. So that was really good awareness. And him and A.J. Brown, man, I don't know what happens, but I know Jalen Hurts is allowed back in the Brown household, and he's probably invited to the cookout this weekend because they're back on the same page, and you love to see it. Everyone's just much more happy when A.J. Brown's catching the ball. So whatever, Jalen, keep it up.
An emotional discussion is always good. Am I right? It's always good.
It's always good. And you know what, Alex, I don't disagree with you that Jalen Hurts looks different. Donovan McNabb had to modify his game pretty substantially.
Not after one season. Career. Not after one season. But if you look at McNabb's serious injuries that he took throughout his career, they came in pretty early. So I would say that if the Eagles are doing one thing, they're learning from their mistakes of making sure that they're protecting their quarterback with the right play calling. The second piece, Andrew, you made a tremendous point just now. At the end of this game, right, we're figuring out how to call plays throughout the game. At the end of this game, we got the ball back with 9 minutes and 22 seconds left in the game, and we didn't give the ball back to the Buccaneers.
Yep.
That, to me, is an understanding of what it's going to take to keep your offense on the field with the right play calling. So whether it's a heavy dose of run, which, by the way, over the course of the last, 23 games, whenever the Eagles have 30 or more touches on rushing plays, we are 16-1. When we have below 30 touches, we're 3-3. So there is a direct correlation over the last couple of seasons for the Eagles that when we run the football with heavy doses of 30 touches plus, we win football games. And I think Brian Johnson, it's going to take him maybe a couple of more weeks, so long as we do it before the bye week, so long as, frankly, before we do it before Cowboys week. I think he is going to continuously progress, continuously grow, and we're going to see more and more of these drives of 9 minutes and 22 seconds, almost 2/3 of the quarter, where our offense is on the field the entire time.
Ali, how many games have the Eagles lost with Jalen Hurts as their starter? Regular season games.
I got to count. I mean, over the last, I know there's the crazy stat over the last 22 games. I think he's 20-1.
You know what? Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of. I think that I had eliminated last year from my memory. So that's probably more of the stat that I was going along with when you mentioned how when we run so much, we only have one loss over that span. And I'm like, well, a lot of that is because of the quarterback. So yeah, that's all I got. I mean, the quarterback's ability to run the ball.
The quarterback's ability to run the ball. Yes. No. And it's one of the things that Jalen said after the first week one win was we're trying to find our identity. I think we know what our identity is. We are a running football team. We are, I think, second in total rush yards behind the Miami Dolphins, who played Madden against the Denver Broncos this past week.
Yeah.
So even with that, I would be shocked if by the end of the season we're not the number one rush offense in the league.
Yeah.
We were last year.
DeAndre Swift, I wanted to mention earlier, there's only 2 running backs with over 300 yards rushing. So McCaffrey is the league leader, a little over 350. And Swift just surpassed 300 last night and barely even touched the rock the first game of the season. So pretty promising things there.
Yeah, no, I think DeAndre Swift is going to have a revitalized career here in Philadelphia. He loves to be here, and he looks cool as hell, man. He got the zero, got the visor, got the towel, the swag. I mean, he looks good. He looks good, man.
My DeAndre Swift jersey's on back order, man. I'm still waiting for it to get delivered. Yeah,
I guess it's not a huge shock with how he's been performing. Like
right.
Seriously, he is so fun to watch. I can't.
Yeah.
Every play, it's like automatic 5 yards deep. And I know our offensive line
is jumping over people. He's just it's incredible.
The athleticism is unbelievable.
Guys, I know last week I said that people tend to overreact in the month of September. So if you'll allow me just one quick overreaction here. In the last 5 seasons, there have been 25 teams that started 3-0 and 20 of them made it to the playoffs. So statistically, we're on the right side of history. And then
I think NFC Championship is kind of the expectation this year, not just making the playoffs. So
no, I get that as well. The second question that I had to both of you is how do you feel about our secondary, specifically with Josh Jobe? I'm not too comfortable with him. I understand why we shifted James Bradbury over to the slot position because it was going to allow him more opportunities to go one-on-one with Chris Godwin, which I feel like is a better matchup than Josh Jobe. But it seemed like pretty early on in the game, Baker was targeting Jobe and it was working pretty well for the most part. So what are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I wish I could watch like the full, I mean, I haven't just sat and just watched Josh Jobe getting toasted all night, but it did seem like at the end of very few big plays the Buccaneers made, Josh Jobe was kind of the closest defender in the vicinity, right? So as a secondary as a whole, I love what I'm seeing. Darius Slay should have had another pick yesterday. We're creating so much pressure. Reed Blankenship is just a freaking stud. Your boy Sidney Brown with the big breakup on Mike Evans. So secondary as a whole, I am not saying anything negative about the secondary. I think they did exactly what they needed to do. Baker's stats were absolute garbage heading into the fourth quarter. I think he only threw like 75 yards, like something like ridiculously small. Josh Jobe's the weak link. You're going to have a weak link. It's going to be him. We've had way worse years and way worse people there. And I think, one person in the whole entire mix isn't something that I'm like our secondary is bad because of that, if that makes sense. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah. I mean, Baker he ended the game with 146. So It's not like we got torched in the secondary by any means. Their leading receiver was Mike Evans, who's a stud. He had 5 for 60, averaged 12 yards of reception. There was no huge play. His long was 24, and that was the longest reception that anybody made. Their tight end, who's been getting a little bit of attention, Cade Otton, 1 catch for 16 yards after 2 weeks of really getting hurt by the tight end position. A lot of this obviously has to do with our ability to pressure the quarterback. When you're able to just bring in so much pressure, the quarterback's going to have to get rid of the ball quick. And if that means the most open person is going to be who Josh Jobe is covering, if you're still eliminating the big play, it's fine. They finished with 11 points yesterday. Like, our defense really, really looked sharp. So these are things that we'll continue to pay attention to. It was good to see linebackers making some plays yesterday. I think that's probably still our overall number one fear. But again, with our defensive front, you're just seeing how important it is to win the game in the trenches and how that makes everybody else's job that much easier. So overall, not too concerned.
Yeah, I think foreshadowing to next week, and we're going to do a separate episode on it. It's going to be a little bit interesting to see what an unproven Sam Howell does. It sounds like he's had highs and lows. We'll kind of see how that kind of plays into everything. Early indications, it's going to be a trap game. I think if we can get past the Commanders, we have a very real shot of being 6-0 before we play the Miami Dolphins. Andrew, why don't you take us home?
Well, I made the mistake of taking the Washington Commanders and swinging it last week, and I was the only person to lose. So while all three of you, while Ali, Aleks, and Birdman, were all just racking up points, I'm still in the gutter. But I do want to make a quick announcement. We're going to need the audience's help this week. We do not have a guest on this week, so instead, we need the audience to collectively come together and decide on what you as a whole want to be your Swingin' It pick. So we will be sending out a post on that. Please, we'll all be looking in the comments to see what everybody likes this week, and whatever the most audience members agree on, that's going to be your pick of the week. So we all have some work to do here. Guys, thanks for listening. 3-0. It's really freaking exciting to doing this thing again. We're 3-0 last year, doing it again. Looking forward to one of our very few 1:00 games this weekend, but we will definitely be back with everybody in a couple days to preview that game. So thanks for listening. Go Birds. Make sure to give us a listen. Apple, Spotify. Follow us on Instagram. Much love. See you next time.
Peace.